Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Jamal's Tube. In this video, I'll be showing you guys how I reset this 3-foot aquascaping tank of mine. Stay tuned, I'll also show you what products I use and the reasons behind. What's up guys? Right now, I'll be showing you guys the process of how I actually clear up my tank from it being scaped to the point it's not. The first step, you have to catch your fish. My suggestion is perhaps reduce the water. There are a few factors that can help you catch your fish at ease. In my case, since there were only 2 of them, one net was already traumatic for them, therefore it was much difficult to catch. I had to basically go through all of the space provided just to catch one fish. As a result, you can see how all the feces and the uneaten food as well as the dust have moved around in the tank. So this is not ideal. If your tank will still be running, this won't be a good approach. After catching the 2 fishes and putting them in their own separate tanks for the time being, I went ahead in reducing the water. As well as now trying to chase after time to get all the plants out. These plants I would then rinse with water. Chlorinated water is fine as long as it's the gentle rinse. Let all the bacteria from the current tank to be removed. You can soak it for about 5 minutes and you can also proceed in using some hydrogen peroxide. Make sure you use a very small dosage. At one point, I went ahead and bought a few different types of gravel vacuum cleaners. They're useful because it helps sift out the poo as well as leaving the aqua soil or sand still in the tank. I have a few different types of sizes ranging because of the different sizes of tanks that I currently own. This is the damage of almost a year of the aquascaping being run. Altogether, I had about 8 kilograms, 8 to 10 kilograms of aqua soil. I mixed a few of the brands such as the Fluval brand as well as mustard soil. I topped up the topsoil with mustard soil. I thought I wanted to make more depth. However, in due time, it did create a lot of ammonia spikes. Some fishes died. I had to rearrange things, and so the reason why I thought of rescaping this tank was simply, one, I had to move this tank towards a different part of the house. Moving this whole tank with all of the aqua soil and the scape would have proved to be very difficult. Opportunity of me to go more of a simple scape. My findings, from what I understand now, moving forward, I would not necessarily go with a big 3-foot tank or an aquascape, let alone a 4-feet tank. I would prefer to go smaller size tanks. And so all the aqua salt that I've saved, I'm gonna be washing them. I will be applying more hydrogen peroxide. And eventually one day I'll reuse them in certain tanks, especially the ones that I just want to keep for plants. There are many ways to actually clean your tank. It goes up to your preference as well as your creativity. As long as you clean the whole tank, wiping away all the traces of the previous inhabitants. In this case, I've decided to use potassium permanganate. I've used this ingredient as it helps kill bacteria. This will allow for the new inhabitants to have a reset tank as compared to having residual traces of bacteria that I did not want. As an oxidizing agent, it effectively eliminates organic matter, bacteria, and parasites that can harm fish. There are many uses for potassium permanganate, such as disease treatment, water quality maintenance, quarantine procedures, algae control. There are precautions and proper usage. If you're not familiar with this product, do not use it just yet. I may come up with another video explaining the uses as well as the recommended dosages for all the above needs in your aquarium tank.
Alright guys, so I am actually, how am I gonna do this? I'm gonna take this off. When you are actually unplugging this, make sure you have a bucket right beside you and a towel. However, I don't have a towel right now, but yeah, you guys make sure you have a towel. I'm just gonna quickly unplug this, and there we go. You see, right nicely into the bucket. So that was the outflow pipe. Once again guys, be careful when you're doing this. Why? Because the metal might actually also break the glass. Well, here we go. Gotta put some force into this bit because I don't unplug this as often as I should. That's why it's, oh man. As you guys can see, we need a towel at hand. I'm gonna clear this up and then I'm gonna move this towards my new spot. There was a towel all along guys, just never used it. I'm gonna wipe this for a bit, and this here is my Fluval 307. I haven't really made a video on it, so maybe one day I will finally cover it. Hey Fluval, you guys can always contact me, you know. So reach out if you want me to make one review video. I'm gonna be taking this canister out because it's actually quite heavy.
And so finally, this is my 3-foot tank that used to be in aquascaping CO2. Now it's just a simple scape. The new inhabitants, I've decided to put temporarily the polar parrots. I decided to go very simple because I didn't want to add more weight. I'll be releasing another video of mine where a tank of mine actually leaked because of the tilt within the tiles of the floor. I found out when I got back home that there was a big puddle of water from the 2-feet tank. Moving forward, I'll try to keep my tanks at a minimum weight. I don't want to make it too heavy. If I'll be putting aquasol, then I'll try to minimize the scapes used. I decided to do a water change. The first water change after setting up the tank and putting the new inhabitants. Having to go through 30 tanks per month is quite the amount. That's something I realized long before. However, now it's more of a acceptance of this is my life. There's a few stages and processes that I do every water change for each tank. I use my bucket as well as this big tub. It measures up to 2.5 feet, which is almost 50 gallons of water. I've used a lot of tubes from previous products to recycle and use, so I could create one long tube that connects towards the tub straight into the toilet sink hole. This is my living room. As you can see from this clip, I've had many changes from the day I released this video. I've set up a new layout. I've moved a few tanks here and there. It's been quite honestly, it's actually quite tiring. So you need to really think of your layout when you set up your tank because it will be in that space for a whole year. As usual, I will be using anti-chlorine before I add fresh water inside the tank. Surprisingly, I don't actually use a lot of water. Most of my tanks, I've converted them to become low tank, and I would only keep certain few fishes that I know are hardy and durable to ensure themselves at least a week or 2 weeks without water change. Some fish like the discuses I would clearly avoid. One, for it being pricey. Second, for it being very, very sensitive with water perimeters. Having a lot of tanks, sometimes you have to think ahead, and this is how I minimized my efforts so that I don't go crazy. Water change for 30 tanks does consume a lot of your time, and this is something I am warning you. Do not proceed with my path. But if you have, it's all doable. It's just that you need to do a lot of planning. After a few days of water change, I realized that the polar parrots, both the male and female pair, have made babies. I guess I am now a father, a breeder of polar parrots, along with guppies. Polar parrot cichlids, or any types of cichlids, are actually readily able to mate with each other, with male and female. If you give them enough space or their own tank, they will start reproducing, and before you know it, you will have hundreds of babies. That topic of breeding your cichlid babies or your guppy babies, I'll make a separate one. However, right now, these polar baby parrots of mine, I figured I might just not do anything about it. Unfortunately, because I'm not prepared to have the babies, I'm just going to be leaving them in the tank up to their fates. Sounds cruel, however, the moment I move the pairs to a smaller tank, of which I will be doing so, eventually they'll start reproducing again and the babies will eventually be more doubled the amount. And that would be a problem for me because then I might have to come up with more creative solutions to keep on having more tanks. And unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know if I want to do that. On the bright side, if I do proceed with this idea of wanting to keep them once they have bred, like these babies here, I would have to scoop them up and place them in a smaller container. That container, I need to ensure that the water perimeters are actually really good in order to keep these babies alive until they're strong enough and big enough. That, for someone who is inexperienced, might be a little bit tough. So this is some considerations when you go on to the aquarium shops to buy your own cichlids. Cichlids make babies like nobody's business, and then you're just left with a lot of them. The same thing with the guppies. Actually, all fishes readily mate with each other, as in with the same species, particularly with a male or a female pair. That's the end for today's video. I managed to show you guys a few different scaping styles, as well as what you can do and should do when you reset your tank from the old scape towards the new one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's any comments, just write them down below and I'll gladly answer them. The next inhabitant for this tank, I believe I want to keep my red maru inside. He's growing almost up to 12 inches, which is 30 centimeters. So I figured this would be a nice place for him for the time being until he gets a 4-feet tank. Subscribe if you want to check that video out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.